Cubo, salutations, and a clenched fist salute, YouTube renegades. Welcome, y bienvenidos once again to the one and only Outlaw News, the small 1,900 plus nobody platform on YouTube that tends to spray the YouTube yarda though with a flare tip can of Krylon Clecha. I am your host, the cyber rebel, the YouTube magonista, the outlaw, the voice of the barrio, the voice of the vato loco, the voice of the voiceless. Que pasa, pinche cyber raza? I hope all is well today in cyber vato land, and everyone is here today either 113 or 114% fully fucking activated and strapped with them critical thinking beanies on. If so, y you're suited and booted today, Outlaw Renegades, y piensan que vinieron listos for acción, then let's mount up, Outlaw Posse, and ride to the dark side of YouTube for a moment. So, first, just let me welcome everyone to the show, and I hope everyone's doing well today. I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible, YouTube Renegades. I don't want to run these videos too long. I know sometimes I can rant off and make these videos long, but you have to understand that I'm just one man that's fighting an uphill battle against an army of snitch influencers who are supported by law enforcement and fake news outlets. So your boy the outlaw can't undo the indoctrination, undo the brainwashing that mainstream media, law enforcement, and snitch influencers have done such a great job creating in 60 years of prison boogeyman lore. So your boy the outlaw cannot just undo that indoctrination in a couple minutes. So sometimes these videos have to run long because, like I said, I'm fighting an uphill battle against the snitch influencer community. Also, if I make a mistake while I'm talking, please understand that my videos are just like life, unedited, raw, and an individual has to accept his mistakes, right? Like in real life, we can't edit out our mistakes. So this channel is like real life and raw. I very seldomly edit anything out. But with that out of the way, YouTube Renegades, make sure you're hitting the like, sub, and notification, and let's get this shit rocking and rolling. Now, YouTube Renegades, you've all heard me talk shit on narcissistic, psychopath, registered rapist, and comic book cholo, Rene Boxer Enriquez, right? You all heard me make the allegations that he is the Chicano Michael Thompson, that he's a habitual liar, and that nothing out of that well-spoken, articulate mouth should be believed unless it's corroborated with receipts. So, your boy the outlaw decided to come on today and do something special for you guys since I've been gone for a minute. Today, like I've done with Mundo and Joe Morgan, I'm coming for narcissistic psychopath, comic book cholo, and habitual liar and registered rapist Rene Boxer Enriquez is wind. I'm going to take his social media wind. I'm going to take his juice card and his clout by exposing him with receipts today, YouTube Renegades, to be 113 and 114% a habitual, compulsive, manipulative con man of a liar like Michael Thompson. But I'm not just going to expose him today, YouTube Renegades. I'm going to give you a 3-for-1. I'm also going to expose the YouTube Northern Torta. No, sorry, let me retract that because he's never been a Northerner. I'm going to give you a 3-for-1, and I'm also going to expose the YouTube Torta, an individual, right, who happens to be a modern day version of Rene Boxer Enriquez, who tells wonderful prison boogeyman fairy tales, an individual who hosts the channel Renegade Media. Yup, the man Torta, 69J. I'm going to expose him, and I'm also going to expose another snitch influencer that I've done before in the past, but I'm going to save him for last to let you know who he is. Okay, YouTube Renegades. How many times have you heard Boxer Enriquez in his latest interview, his book, or basically any time he runs his mouth, talk about how he played a pivotal role in establishing the Mexican mafia's wealth and power during the 90s. That it was him and his Pepsi generation who actually established the wealth and power of the Mexican mafia during their 90s taxation program, right? Always painting himself to be an important person, right? Somebody highly intellectual. Well, today you're going to find out that everything he says is a complete fucking lie. And also, how many times have you heard Mantorta 69J tell wonderful stories of how the Mexican mafia and the Nuestra Familia run well-oiled machines, how they extort hundreds of thousands of dollars from street gangs on the streets, and how all the gangs bow down to them and pay them taxes, and how they control everyone on the streets, and how no one los manda a la verga, right? Right? How he says it would be wonderful if one day the gangs decided to rise up against these prison organizations, which would only benefit him and his PC gang, right? So, okay, you two renegades, remember, both Rene Boxer Enriquez and Mantorta 69J paint out the Mexican mafia to be some well-oiled machine, a well-oiled money-making machine that generates hundreds of thousands of dollars from extorting street gangs, drug dealers, and alliances that they have with drug cartels, right? Which Boxer, the rapist Enriquez, played a pivotal role in establishing during the 90s, right? So now that I've kind of laid out the foundation of the prison boogeyman fairy tales these individuals tell, it's time to get started with my receipts, you two renegades, that expose these guys as fucking habitual con man liars, like Michael Thompson. Now, you two renegades, it's important for me to activate your critical thinking beanies right now and your minds, get them working. So I'm going to hit you up with a few questions. Where do you get your prison lore from? Meaning, where do you get your prison boogeyman fairy tales from? Do you actually speak to actual actives that were in the shoe? Were you housed in the shoe? Did you participate in the hunger strikes or somehow take part in the lawsuit, the Ashker lawsuit settlement? Or do you get your prison lore from a highly manipulative snitch influencer, some comic book best-selling book that's written by a snitch influencer or law enforcement? Or do you watch some law enforcement produced documentary, mini gang documentary, that exclusively only interviews informants? Or let me guess, maybe you grew up watching television, specifically Fox News, and got your prison lore from Chris Blanchford, who, again, exclusively only interviews informants and law enforcement. So in short, what I'm trying to get at is that you most likely, 99.9% of you, have gotten your prison lore from a one-sided, extremely slanted and biased snitch influencer, right? And for those of you who say, oh, well, my homie who's in prison laced me up, right? Let me guess. Your homie who's probably spent his entire life going in and out of prison for his drug habit, not his hood and his homies, right? An individual who most likely spent his entire career as an inmate on level 1 and 2 yards, right? Never was a convict on a level 3 or 4, or most likely doesn't even know the difference between an inmate and a convict, correct? So basically, what you're telling me, or what most of you probably aren't aware of, or ever really thought of, that you're getting your prison lore from the neighborhood habitual dope fiend, right? The most likely paroles to his mama's house, right? Begs his mama to buy him clothes and beer, right? And diapers for his kids that he doesn't take care of, right? This is who you get your prison lore from, right? With no receipts and no corroboration. So now that I got your minds rolling and activated to think of, wait, where do I get my prison lore, right? Let me ask you again. Have you ever gotten prison lore from Insider Magazine, The New Yorker, or news outlets such as the Los Angeles Magazine? What I mean is, have you ever heard what law enforcement and snitch influencers tell the rich and wealthy. Because us, right? Us, the ghetto people from the streets, right? The ghettos and the barrios, we don't get the same information, right? We don't go to the same schools. We don't go to the same colleges, same doctors, right? We go to the club to get some leisure on, and they go to country clubs. Okay? There's a big difference. We aspire to go to prison while they aspire to go to college. So it's safe to say it's two different worlds, and we receive two different types of information. So, have you ever gotten prison lore from a news outlet that specifically caters to the 1%, right? The wealthy, the elite? My guess is no. And my guess is you probably aren't even aware that the elite get indoctrinated with prison lore too, like we do in the ghetto. Well, today, YouTube Renegades, I'm going to read an article from the Los Angeles Magazine, one of these one percenter magazines and news outlets, to you, the streets, the people in the ghetto and the barrios, and I want you to hear what they tell them about prison, and specifically the individuals who tell these stories. Because the article I'm about to tell you is from the Los Angeles Magazine from May 1997. And the journalist was one of the journalists who exclusively covered the MS federal RICO case in 1996. That's what this article is going to be about. It's titled Dial M for Murder. And I'm going to leave the link in the description so you guys can look it up. Now, this article, this journalist interviewed prosecutors, interviewed former gang members, defense attorneys, law enforcement who played a pivotal role in creating the MF federal RICO case. And it also spoke to high-level informants that were involved with the MF federal RICO case. So it's safe to say that their source, if we believe what snitch influencers say and law enforcement say, it's pretty credible, right? Pretty credible prison boogeyman lore. And it's going to be hard to debunk it, is what I'm trying to get at, I guess. Now, we're at 13 minutes right now. So I want to try to keep this as short as possible. I'm going to try to do under 30 minutes, YouTube Renegades. Again, I'm going to read this article, right? Dial M for Murder from the Los Angeles Magazine, a magazine that caters to the 1%, to the rich and wealthy, right? That was from May 1997, that it was current and relevant during the period when the MA federal RICO case was taking place in Los Angeles. And I want you to pay attention how they talk about this well-oiled machine, right? The Mexican mafia, the well-oiled money-making machine that Boxer Enriquez played a pivotal role in creating its wealth and power along with the others from the Pepsi generation during the 90s. And again, don't forget what the wonderful prison boogeyman fairy tales that Torta 69J from Renegade Media says about the well-oiled money-making machine, how everyone bows down to these guys, right? And now this article, pay attention, how this article completely debunks everything Rene Boxer Enriquez has said and everything Mantorta 69J from Renegade Media says about the successful, well-oiled Mexican mafia money-making machine, right? How they're true criminal enterprises, right? Rivaling groups like La Cosa Nostra. Okay? Now I'm going to read this to you. And also remember how Jackoff J, 69J, talks about how he fantasizes that the gangs in Southern California would rebel against the Mexican mafia, right? So I'm not going to read the entire story. I'm going to read about maybe half the story, because first half is really just an intro talking about his interviews, who he met with for the story. But I'm going to leave the link in my description for everyone to look at and read. But I'm just going to read the most important parts of this. Okay. The tapes provide a fascinating window into the everyday life of the Mexican mafia, its dramas, its headaches, and surprisingly, its many screw-ups. As killers, La M seems remarkably effective, but when it comes to criminal organization, it's a disaster. Things keep going wrong. Impersonators plague its operations, collecting taxes in the organization's name, and turning green lights on and off. 18th Street gang members started doing drive-bys again. Now pay attention right here. The Mexican drug cartels snub the group's overts and go behind their back. So whatever happened to this wonderful alliance between the well-oiled machine, the Mexican mafia, that registered rapist Boxer Enriquez paints out to be, and their alliance with the drug cartels? Because right here, it's saying that the drug cartels snub the group's overts and go behind their backs. It doesn't say they bow down to them, and it doesn't say that they are in a working alliance with them like comic book cholo Rene Boxer Enriquez claims they are. Now, this is where I want you to pay attention to the so-called prison boogeyman fairy tale, how all the gangs in LA bow down to these prison organizations, and how none of them, los manda a la verga, resist and fight back against these so-called MS shot callers, right? Pay attention to this, and let you tell me if this sounds like some well-oiled machine that Boxer Enriquez claims he played a pivotal role in establishing, or the prison boogeyman fairy tales told by Mantorta 69J. The Hazard Gang in the Ramona Gardens, the supposed cradle of the Mexican Mafia, is shooting at Emmet tax collectors. So, the Hazard Gang in the Ramona Gardens, instead of bowing down and paying their taxes, right, are actually shooting the Mexican Mafia members and running them out of their neighborhoods. Now, another thing I want to tell you that's not mentioned in the story or in the beginning is that also the Maravilla rebelled against the well-oiled machine y los mandaron a la verga, and were writing openly on the walls that Maravilla was a tax-free barrio. Also, the MS-13 los mandó a la verga and told them that they refused to pay taxes, right? So we have 18th Street, we have Maravilla, and MS-13 and Hazard Gang already, right? 4 major Los Angeles gangs telling this well-oiled machine, right, Boxer Enriquez and the Pepsi generation, que se vayan a la verga. And not just that, shooting at them and running them out of their neighborhood. Now, check this one out, what I'm about to read right now. On January 31st, 1995, according to the tapes, so this is recorded on FBI surveillance audio, Oscar Little Man Rodriguez and defendant Alex Pee Wee Aguirre went to South Central to allegedly collect taxes from the East Side 13 clique. First, they were beaten up, then they were met with a hail of gunfire. Rodriguez was killed by a bullet to the head, and Aguirre took a bullet to the hand. No, excuse me, I'm still fighting off that cough. So, according to this article, and this is true, Alex Pee Wee Aguirre, his number one enforcer, Oscar Little Man Rodriguez, and his snot-nosed bratty brother, Little Pee Wee, went to South Central to try to collect taxes from the East Side 13 gang. And the entire gang jumped them, beat the fuck out of them, ran them out of their neighborhood. And as they were running out of that neighborhood, they shot up their car, killed Pee Wee Aguirre's number one enforcer, and shot Pee Wee Aguirre in the hand, right? Now, for those of you who watch Gangland and have seen, I believe either it's the Mexican Mafia's Code of Conduct or the Avenues of Hell, the episode on the Avenues, there's an infamous picture of Pee Wee Aguirre, a mugshot in which he bears 2 black eyes. That picture was taken the day after the East Side 13 clique beat the living shit out of Pee Wee Aguirre and shot him in the hand, right? So what happened to this well-oiled machine that registered rapist, comic book cholo, Rene Boxer Enriquez, spews very and articulates very well out of his mouth, right? This doesn't seem like a well-oiled machine. This doesn't seem like this is true criminal enterprise, right? This doesn't seem like he propelled anything, right, to be a powerful, well-oiled machine, right? All we read so far is how the overwhelming majority of cliques in LA rebelled against the MS tax program y los mandaron a la verga by beating them up and shooting them and running them out of their neighborhoods. Now, I want to point something out that's very important right here that I'll kind of touch on a little later. The only reason the Eastside 13 gang beat the shit out of Pee Wee Aguirre was because another alleged Mexican mafia member, Randy Cowboy Thurin, who was actually working as an undercover informant during the period, and they even have a surveillance audio of this, instigated the beef by telling the East Side 13 clique that Pee Wee Aguirre was a fraud and was not a Mexican mafia member, and to handle him. So, the only reason the East Side 13 gang raised arms and beat the shit out of Pee Wee Aguirre was because an undercover informant instigated the entire incident. Now, during the M. Federal RICO case, they never brought up the case of the East Side 13 and the shooting of Pee Wee Aguirre, because if they did, prosecutors would have to reveal that it was their informant who actually instigated and fabricated that incident. So therefore, they had to leave that crime out of the federal M. RICO case, just like they had to drop the charges of extortion or threats against Edward James Olmos, because it turned out that, in fact, the individual who actually put the green light to try to assault Edward James Olmos was undercover informant Chuco Castro, not an actual bona fide validated active. Okay? But let's keep going with the story. I can sit there and keep going on that. The jury hears the crippling aftermath of the shootout on a tape of Aguirre calling Castro from a payphone outside McDonald's on Soto Street. He's got a rental car full of bullet holes, and Rodriguez's body is slumped in the passenger seat. The rental car is in my name, Aguirre wails, and I am on parole. Oh shit, man. Tell them it was stolen, Castro suggests. Tell them that it was a case of mistaken identity. You were just driving down the street. You never saw the guys who shot you before. How you doing anyways? Took one to the hand, huh? Yeah, it hurts like a son of a bitch. Where the fuck is my ride out of here, Holmes? For a parolee to rent a car in his own name and then use it for an extortion mission seems like an amateurish blunder, and it's not the only one. Shryock, Raymond Weddle Shryock, allegedly drove to and from a shootout in his own car without so much as changing the license plate, which was written down by a witness. Another time, Emmett authorized assassins shot up the wrong house, the one next door to the intended victim. A general sense of confusion. Oh man, what the hell happened here? Sorry, my article kind of messed up. Okay, there we go. And then where was I here? A general sense of confusion emerges from the tapes. So the FBI admits that from the audio surveillance tapes, which they will not release and play to the public, because they fear that us, the public, will hear the truth, that these are not well-oiled machines, and that in fact, you will see that the overwhelming majority of crimes committed and authorized were instigated and ordered by an undercover informant. A general sense of confusion emerges from the tapes of men struggling to keep a lid on things. Problems are breaking out all over, and the solution is always the same: blast the motherfuckers. Meanwhile, MF finances are in disarray. Incredibly, the Mexican mafia doesn't seem to make much money. On the tapes, Shryock asks if anyone can slide business his way. Slide business in his direction. I'm sorry. Let me read that again. Shryock asks if anyone can slide some business in his direction. I'm living in a motel room right now. and I'm trying to get some money together to get a place to live. On another, Castro asked 5 of the defendants to chip in $10 apiece towards the cost of the room, and one of them comes up short. So they're extorting hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? As Mantorta, Jackoff J claims, right? And comic book cholo Boxer Enriquez articulates so well in his interviews, but yet, right here, they can't even afford to pay for the motel rooms in which they're holding the meetings. So much so that the FBI has to cover the cost, right? And on top of that, I just want to mention something. Now remember, these guys are supposed to be running a well-oiled machine. Now I ask you, YouTube renegades, if you're running a well-oiled machine, right, a criminal enterprise that's extorting hundreds of thousands of dollars and has every gang member bowing down to you, would you be living in a rundown roach motel? Or would you be living in a modest middle-class home, trying to keep a low profile, driving a modest, newer model car, right? Not living in a roach-infested tweaker motel like Raymond Whittle Shy, right? Now, another thing I want to point out to you, just a quick note. Lucky Luciano, the individual who played a pivotal role in establishing the wealth and power of La Cosa Nostra, used to stay in a luxury suite at the Waldorf Astoria in New York, right? Not a shitty rundown motel. Al Capone used to stay in some of the most luxurious penthouse suites in Chicago, right? 4-star hotels. And when he was on vacation, he would go to his mansion estate in Florida, right? Not some rundown shitty motel. And neither one of these individuals would ever be caught begging anybody to push some business his way because he needs to make some money, right? To get out of a shithole roach-infested motel. But remember, the Mexican Mafia is a well-oiled machine, says Mantorta69J and comic book registered rapist Renee Boxer Enriquez, right? Now, I also want to point out one thing. The gangs in LA weren't the only gangs in LA during the period that were shooting at, stabbing, and running the MS shot callers out of their neighborhood. And if you come to the Inland Empire, the Chino Sinners were shooting and stabbing and running any alleged Mexican Mafia shot caller or tax collector out of their neighborhood. In Ontario and Pomona, they were also running them out. And as a matter of fact, I believe in the city of Corona, every individual who's ever gone into their city claiming to be an MA shot caller and tax collector, who always coincidentally turn out to be low-key PCs, have either been murdered, paralyzed, or severely wounded that they suffer from mental disorders, okay? So I just wanted to point out that it's not just in LA, but throughout Southern California, a large portion of the gangs were shooting, either killing, stabbing, or just in general running them out of their neighborhoods, basically telling them que se vayan a la verga, okay? Not bowing down to them, right? They were doing what Jackoff J's always fantasized about, right? Now, how is it that this individual, Jackoff J, Mantorta J, who claims to have inside sources, right, does his research, isn't aware that during the 90s taxation program, that just about every gang in Southern California le dijo a la M que se vayan a la verga, right? Instead, he tells you the prison boogeyman fairy tale of how the Mexican Mafia is a well-oiled machine, right? Now, this is where I want to expose the third snitch influencer whose wind I'm going to take today. I've done it before, but I just want to remind you that how treacherous these snitch influencers are, how manipulative they are, and how they're walking, talking contradictions of themselves. They constantly contradict what they say. Their statements never match up, and they're afraid to be called out when you call them up on their contradiction. But let me read the last part of this article. But on the outside, the Mexican Mafia has never really fulfilled its potential. It lacks of hierarchy, Mendoza says, Mendoza describes. It is all chiefs and no Indians, with no clear chain of command. It further hampered by its lack of ambition. The average member doesn't require that much on the outside, says Mendoza. A nice car, some clothes, a few $100s in his pocket. He wants to walk into certain bars and nightclubs where Mexican American underworld figures gather and be treated with respect. His dreams are not lofty, and a lot of the members like heroin, and this often becomes their downfall. Now, I want to remind you that programmed serial killer and MK Ultra test dummy Muno Mendoza went on a national syndicated television show, Gangland, the History Channel Gangland, and told the world that the Mexican mafia is true organized crime, and its goal is to extend its powers across the nation like La Cosa Nostra. But yet, right here in this article from 1997, he admits that they're broke, they lack ambition, and basically they ain't doing shit. So what happened to the well-oiled machine that we hear about every day on YouTube by some fucking snitch influencer? Specifically, Mantorta69J and comic book cholo Rene Boxer Enriquez. Where is the well-oiled machine that Boxer Enriquez helped establish along with the Pepsi generation? It doesn't exist, YouTube renegades. It is 113 and 114% a fabricated lie. Have you ever seen Boxer Enriquez show seized assets from alleged Mexican mafia members who were in the shoe? Now, let me remind you, he claims in his debriefing video that he's aware of at least 12 Mexican mafia members who possess over $20,000 in their account. Yet, he's never testified in court to that, right? Where's the money? There is no money. They sell the youth a subconscious illusion to believe that if you throw your life away and go to prison, that you maybe one day could become a prison boogeyman gang leader and have your cell walls full of tax money, right? And your pillows stuffed with hundreds of dollars of bills, right? Because you will become an instant billionaire by throwing your life away in prison, right? That's the subconscious illusion they send to the youth. That's why most Latino youth aspire to go to prison and not college, because they're subconsciously indoctrinated to believe the bullshit prison boogeyman fairy tale from well-articulated registered rapists and comic book cholos like Rene Boxer Enriquez and YouTube snitch influencers like Mini Man Torta 69 Jackoff J from Renegade Media. Has Renegade Media, since he's been on YouTube, ever presented seized assets from any prison gang leader? Has he ever showed you where an informant has ever testified and led law enforcement to seize these assets? And let me remind you, every fucking snitch influencer claims to be a one-time heavy hitter with their prison organization who collected taxes or sold drugs or laundered money from them. But has he ever showed you where these alleged snitch influencers have corroborated their statements in court? No, right? Because they're bullshit fucking lies. So, there it is, YouTube renegades. I showed you the receipts that, in fact, Boxer Enriquez is nothing more than a well-articulate bullshit liar, habitual bullshit liar that tells delusional prison fantasies like Michael Lynn Thompson. Now, I could keep ranting off about these assholes, but I'm not. I want to leave you with something to think about, YouTube renegades, because this is a channel that encourages its viewers to be critical thinking individuals. Social media critical thinking outlaw renegades. YouTube renegades. Boxer Enriquez never spent a day in Pelican Bay Shoe till after he was rearrested. Okay, he was paroled in 1989, conveniently the same year the Pelican Bay Shoe was opened, right? Boxer Enriquez and a squad of, of an alleged Mexican mafia members who today we are finding out were actually really informants, right? There was actually more informants within the squad of alleged Mexican mafia members than actual alleged Mexican mafia members. Okay? So these individuals were paroled. None of these individuals ever did a day in Pelican Bay SHU or Corcoran SHU. Instead, after they were arrested and charged in the MS federal RICO case, they were all sent to not maximum security federal prisons like ADX, but low-level country club federal prisons. They never had to endure one day in Pelican Bay and Corcoran SHU. They didn't have to endure the psychological torture. They didn't have to come to the decision if they were going to debrief or go crazy or commit suicide. They didn't have to watch their cellmate or neighbor commit suicide or go insane or debrief in order to avoid going insane or committing suicide. What I'm trying to say is that these individuals never had to endure the psychological torture that many of the men in the SHU did. Okay? These individuals got to go to country club prisons, and that is because they, working with law enforcement, hand in hand, were responsible for creating the illusion that prison boogeyman gangs exist to indoctrinate the public, you and I, to believe and to make a justified reason for the existence of a unit like Pelican Bay SHU or Corcoran SHU. For a prison within a prison to exist that's based on psychological torture and designed to make individuals commit suicide or go crazy. Okay? So the only thing that Boxer Enriquez really played a major role in the Pepsi generation, really played a role in, was creating the illusion that prison boogeyman gangs exist. Given and that illusion that was embedded in us, indoctrinated into us, right, gave the justified reason for the existence of Pelican Bay SHU and Corcoran SHU. YouTube renegades, that is what I want you to be left with. I want you to think about that for a moment. That had it not been for Boxer Enriquez, his bullshit chaos that he created on the street, right? Robbing fucking people for $17, killing a homeless guy, and killing a girl for a $10 drug debt, right? Or $20 drug debt. And the Pepsi generation's fucking screw-ups, because if I just showed you, they're shooting the wrong house, getting ran out of neighborhoods, they're fucking broke, begging fools to shoot money, business their way, right? If it wasn't for their shenanigans, right, there would never be a justified reason for Pelican Bay SHU to exist. So, YouTube renegades, there it is. In just about 40 minutes, I was able to destroy the credibility of registered rapist, comic book cholo, narcissistic social psychopath, Renee Boxer Enriquez, Man-Torta 69J, and programmed serial killer and one-time MK Ultra test dummy, Ramon Machine Gun Mendoza. That is why, YouTube renegades, the snitch influencer community is so fearful of your boy the Outlaw. Why they cringe when they see the Outlaw uploading a video. Though I may not have thousands of subscribers or thousands of views or hundreds of comments, my simple 40 minutes of truth and reality that are backed with receipts and actual research destroys their credibility every time I open my mouth, every time I upload a video, right? I come with the truth, right? And the best thing to do to destroy a snitch influencer is to confront him with the truth or to use their words against him. Just like I did today, YouTube renegades. I used their own words that they've been articulating so well on social media, right, against them. I just proved that everything they've said is a complete 113 and 114% a fucking lie. Now, YouTube renegades, the question is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to sit there and stay indoctrinated, stay brainwashed, or are you going to break free from your mental chains, subscribe, hit the notification, and leave a comment and become a fucking outlaw renegade yourself today and fight these snitch influencers, their lies, manipulation, and panhandling, because that's what they are. Social media bums who panhandle for money. So, YouTube renegades, this is why I tell you we must remain 113 and 114% fully fucking activated and strapped with our critical thinking beanies on extra tight at all times. Because we are bombarded every day by lying, manipulative con men like registered rapist and comic book cholo Rene Boxer Enriquez, and little man tortas like 6ix9ine from Renegade Media. So, with that said, YouTube renegades, I also have one more receipt, one more article, actually two receipts that completely debunk everything 6ix9ine Jackoff J from Renegade Media has said about Nuestra Familia and their well-oiled machine. So if you would like me to expose mini YouTube man torta, 6ix9ine Jackoff J from Renegade Media, let me know in the comment section. And with that said, YouTube renegades, a motherfucking clinch fist salute y venceremos.